If I could sing, I would sing, "Oops, he did it again." But don't worry, I won't sing. But former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson speaks out in a column in favor of Donald Trump's re-election in the upcoming US elections. They ruled their nations in an analog time frame and caused polarization before and after terms in office, so it's not a surprise. The former US President Donald Trump and former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And now Johnson is campaigning for Trump's re-election as President of the United States and praises this prospect in one of his weekly Daily Mail columns he's producing. With a view to the recent US primary election in Iowa, which Donald Trump won with a clear majority, Johnson states, "Yes, folks, the big orange airship is miraculously inflating again over the Atlantic. After his overwhelming victory in Iowa, Donald Trump is now the clear favorite." The former British head of state welcomes this prospect and reacts skeptically to a classification in The Economist that declared Trump to be the biggest global threat in 2024. Instead, Boris Johnson insists, "If you look at the facts, you can actually argue, and I can now, that a Trump presidency could be exactly what the world needs." Johnson and facts? Just saying. But how does the former Prime Minister and the former Brexit supporter, who was himself born in New York, come to this assessment? First of all, he puts things into perspective, and with a view to his preference and the Capitol storm 2 years ago, he says, "Let me emphasize that this is in no way intended to diminish the excellent qualities of Joe Biden, who has done many good things and is an Atlanticist and a friend of this country. Nor am I trivializing Trump's egregious mistake on January 6th in 2021 and the subsequent insurrection on Capitol Hill." In the next breath, Boris Johnson points out that the election is a matter for the American people and that the majority of them apparently do not believe or want Trump to be excluded from the presidential election next November because of his crimes, and some of which are part of various judicial hearings, but they don't want him excluded. "Reasonable people can see that Trump is not actually a would-be dictator," is what Johnson said, further refuting fears that America under Trump might stop supporting Ukraine. Whatever they say now about President Trump, I can not believe that he wants to go down in history as the president who abandoned a country that he had already made a significant contribution to for their liberation. In his column, Boris Johnson bases his perceptions on the fact that Trump was the first to stand up for Ukraine in 2014 after Putin's army invaded Crimea. However, completely different forces such as Barack Obama and Western allies had failed at this point in time and before. He did nothing to drive Putin out of Ukraine, neither from Crimea nor from Donbas, neither the French nor the Germans, and to be honest, not even the British government at the time, Johnson said. Although Johnson is aware that there are numerous Ukraine skeptics within the Republican Party, he seems to exclude Donald Trump from this. How can you make America great again if you allow a Russian tyrant to completely humiliate the West? Trump will certainly demand that the Europeans pay more for their own defense, but that is a long-standing policy of the USA. And Johnson goes on to say, "I just can't believe that Trump is abandoning the Ukrainians. On the contrary, after he finds out that there is no deal to be made with Putin, I think there is a good chance that he will double down and finish what he started by giving them what they need in order to win." Well, in general, Johnson believes there is a great chance that the West will become stronger and the world more stable if Trump returns to the White House. Regarding Iran's support of Russia and Hamas, the prominent columnist asked rhetorically, "Do you think any of this would be happening now if Donald Trump had been president for the last 4 years?" He is against Iranian hardliners like the Iranian officer Qasem Soleimani, who died on Trump's orders in 2020 and acted decisively and would have earned respect. "What did America do under Obama? Nothing," asked Johnson. Johnson also favorably cited Trump's against Bashar al-Assad and his forces in 2018. Assad subsequently stopped using chemical weapons against his own people. Based on this evidence, one could certainly argue that the world now needs a US leader whose propensity for violence and sheer unpredictability will be a major deterrent to the enemies of the West. If so, then that leader is Trump, said Johnson, paying homage to his former counterpart, who recently said he could end the Ukraine conflict within 24 hours. According to the latest polls, Trump has a clear lead in the Republican field, and his clear victory in the Iowa caucuses has just proven this again. In New Hampshire, too, everything boils down to a success for the former president. If Trump also triumphs on the state on the East Coast on today, when I'm filming this, there will be little to prevent him from being nominated as his party's presidential candidate for the 2024 US election in November. However, it is noticeable that Haley has recently been able to gradually reduce the gap to Trump, but she is falling in the polls at the moment. And DeSantis, just before I wrote this video, endorsed Trump. And so the governor of Florida is not in the race anymore. Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are two of the most famous populists in recent memory. And both politicians managed to mobilize large parts of the population using populist methods and come to power. The methods Johnson and Trump used to pursue populism are similar in many ways, and both politicians use simple and emotional language that focuses on simple answers to complex problems. They paint a picture of a world in which the ordinary population has to defend itself against a corrupt and power-hungry elite. They belong to themselves, yeah. They spread fear and mistrust towards minorities in other countries, and they use social media to direct their messages to the population. Both Johnson and Trump are known for their simple and emotional language. They use simple words and phrases that are easy to understand, and they often speak in metaphors and images that appeal to emotions, and they often use slogans that are easy to remember. And Johnson and Trump also use images to get their messages across. They often use images of strong men who represent order and security, and they also show images of people in distress to generate compassion and solidarity. And Johnson and Trump are focused on similar issues. Both politicians promise to stimulate the economy, create jobs, and ensure the country's security. And they also criticized immigration and globalization. And Johnson and Trump also create enemy images to mobilize their supporters. They criticize the elites, the immigrants in other countries, as I said, and they paint a picture of a world in which the ordinary population has to defend itself against this corrupt and power-hungry elite. But look at Trump and Johnson. But these similarities in Johnson and Trump's methods are not coincidental. Both politicians have learned from each other's successes. They have seen that populist methods can be effective in gaining power. And Johnson and Trump's methods also have negative consequences. They can lead to the polarization of society, as they already did, the spread of hatred and discrimination, and the weakening of democracy. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here on the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.